Hi, so I've come to brief you on some of our recent developments of what we're doing with treating television as data and data treatments of television news and political speech, political advertising, and the like. But I thought I'd start off just in general with a quick brief on the Internet Archive. I'll flip through a bunch of slides quickly just to get everybody up to speed. We are a nonprofit digital library dedicated to universal access to all knowledge. At its heart, we're an invitation to collaborate. That's why I'm here today. We are also really a series of beta tests with a variety of different media to beta test and demonstrate to society that it's not that hard to approach this dream of universal access to all knowledge. We're a nonprofit. We are headquartered in San Francisco. This is our headquarters. We bought a church to kind of match our logo. It's a former Christian Science church. In that church are 25 petabytes of unique data spinning on servers that help heat the building. We host a variety of different media, including this many software titles, a million plus books, 2 million moving images, more than 2 million audio recordings. We have more than 3 million hours of television within our archives. We only surface for public research, U.S. television news, but we're increasingly welcoming folks like you to virtual server instances within which we call a virtual library reading room to do advanced data studies where we don't have to release these enormous media sets to the wild, but yet they can inform public interest applications. Lots of ebooks, and as we're known for through the Wayback Machine, more than 430 billion web pages. Going back in time, here's what CBS News looked like in 1996. Our digital resources are utilized to, on an emergency basis sometimes when we haven't been capturing things live. We'll get a call, as we did from an international group of investigative reporters saying our group in Crimea is in some kind of danger. If you could quickly grab our stuff, that'd be great. We sent our crawlers a work, and just before our task was finished, their offices were invaded. You can reflect back on a variety of different things, and sometimes there are highly transitory posts, and this is an example of one where somebody seemed to have taken claim for downing a Ukrainian military aircraft that looks like the same one that turned out to be not military but a civilian one. Websites come and go. Our experience as an assessment as of 2 years ago is that the average lifetime of a web page is 100 days. This becomes very consequential in terms when these are used as reference points. Here's a study done at Berkman Center looking at online web page references within Supreme Court opinions, and found that 50% of them were essentially dead. They either went nowhere, or a couple of them went to a page where people had put ironically, hey, this should have gone to this web page, but it's no longer available. Get a grip, Supreme Court. So we think, like George Santayana, that there are lessons to be learned that are important for our future. So too in the domain of television. The Library of Congress was directed in the 1970s by Congress to preserve radio and television. It's a big job, it's hard to do, and they've really yet to quite get going on it. And starting in the year 2000, we stepped in and said, well, let's give it a hack. Other people thought the same thing in the 1970s. This woman was an African-American civil rights activist, and librarian, who in 1979 decided it was really important that television news be preserved. So she started recording at home. And 35 years later, 40,000 video cassettes later, she died, and her family donated the archive to the Internet Archive. And that really is the physical extent of all of that which she recorded. She did a good job recording. So we're looking to be able to raise the funds sufficient to extend our television archive, which right now just goes back to the year 2009, to be able to digitize that which we have that goes back to the year 2000 when we started recording. Not only digitize, but really index for search. And then utilize collections like Marion Stokes and others to extend it further and further back while we step forward every day. Our television news research library is now available online at archive.org/TV. Here's a simple interface. We repurposed the closed captioning to facilitate deep search. We think that highly granular metadata of time-coded media allows us to facilitate data treatments as well as human access. And in fact, kind of breaks this ancient model we have of time-based media, video and audio, being like an ancient Egyptian scroll. Like if you've got to get somewhere and find something, you just unfurl it. And if you want to do it fast, you unfurl it faster. Well, we're trying to leap us all into the post-Gutenberg era where there's indices. You can use these indices to search for anything. We'll bring you to the appropriate portions, which our search engine thinks might be appropriate. We allow you to play it, to embed it. The URL is canonical for that reference point. Here's an example of an embedded quote someplace. Our service has been used initially for some research, including by the Berkman Center and MIT Media Lab on this multimedia ecosystem study of the twists and turns of the Trayvon Martin story. They've got good web crawlers like we do to crawl news sites and political blogs. And for the first time, they were able to add television into this assessment of how the approaches to the various key characters and issues twisted and turned and pivoted about political points. So one of the things we're really interested in, in politics, the most amount of campaign spending is spent on political ads. And this year, as we're drawing up to 2016, it's expected that, at least for the presidential campaign, the spending could be twice that of 2012, and most of that will go into television advertising. And television advertising and political ads, like all of television, just tends to sweep over us like a wavefront. And there's very little pause and rewind on the button. In the case of political ads, these are made by masters of persuasion. And we think that it would be valuable for scholars and journalists and others to be able to reflect thoughtfully on the messaging and and maybe even inoculate folks, not so much on the messaging, but pull out what are common tropes, so that when you hear the music go dark, or the contrast suddenly drop, or the appearance of children in light colors, that there may be a little subroutine that we might be able to initiate to go, oh, wait a minute, I know this. So we experimented last year in the Philadelphia television market area with the experimental collaboration between a number of scholars and journalists. In this area, there was a number of key open congressional races in which a lot of outside money started to flow. So we essentially captured the region's media ecosystem, including all of its television. We were able to identify all the political ads and join them with information about how often they played and other kinds of metadata, as well as outside information from Sunlight Foundation and others on who was behind paying for the political ads. There's a number of research that's resulted from this, including this study that studied, well, within television news, how much time was spent in television news actually conveying substantive political news, not just horse races, but something that was a little bit more substantive. Their threshold was kind of low as compared to how much time they spent on political advertising. Well, unfortunately, the ratio was pretty wide. It was for every 45 minutes of political ads in the television news in this region, they got a good 1 minute of substantive political reporting. I mean, we think that sort of might follow everybody's assumption, but here's an opportunity for this to be quantifiable, and not just be quantifiable by somebody's claim that hopefully maybe is trusted, but for the first time there is this television news research library that anybody can go back and reflect on that and make their own counts and verify that. Hasn't been possible before. So coming up to 2016, we're having learned the lessons from last year in Philadelphia. We are spreading out throughout key primary states, key regions and primary states, and going to be collecting all of TV, parsing the political ads, joining the political ads with those other metadata, and now this time around, joining up with professional journalists to make a digital library reference page for each political ad that will have thoughtful journalistic analysis of the content of the ad, as well as the larger context of those issues raised in the ad within the political campaigns itself. These are our launch partners. To accomplish this at scale, we had to develop highly accurate fingerprinting. We use audio fingerprinting in collaboration with a scholar who's really the developer of this highly accurate audio fingerprinting tool that allows us to, once we've identified one ad, or frankly, anything else, we can find all other instances of it throughout our entire library, both that which we surface to individuals publicly, the news portions of television, and also all the entertainment. We did something interesting in collaboration with Kalev Letaru, who's going to be speaking just after me. This is a representation of the primetime debate of the most recent Fox News debate, showing you there's a complete transcript, and it shows you how much each of these different elements of the debate and who said it were featured subsequently in television news programs. So we took little sound bites and made audio fingerprints of each and looked over the ensuing week to across all the television news, that is all national news and local news from select regions, to see where the ripple effects went. So this is the first time, we're just hacking this, we're just experimenting with this, but this is a kind of tool that's kind of like a seismometer for television news to see the ripple effects of sound bites. You can use this tool. It's available now. For instance, here's a, excuse me. Here I've clicked on this little element here. Here's Rand Paul saying, "I don't trust President Obama with our records." It was quoted excerpted 167 times. That is a portion of that exact, not somebody saying this, but actually Rand Paul saying that particular soundbite. Here's the incidence of it over time. Here's the top 5 stations airing some portion of that soundbite. And down here, and this goes way down this way, are all the instances where that was quoted. You can click on any one of those, all the instances of where it was quoted. Up pops a player, and you'll see and hear that portion. It may not be the entire one line. It may be a portion of it. This fingerprinting tool resolves down to about a second, including significant foreign language overdubbing, which is pretty cool. Pardon me. So you see that in this context, and like with all the rest of our library, all the embedded material, well, if you click on this, if you'd like, it'll take you back to our library and to the context in which that little soundbite was used, or any one of our embedded library reference pages, or if there's if you use one of our links as a reference link, it'll take you back, and owing to that model I said we're trying to break of the ancient Egyptian scroll, we're sort of presenting the entire span of this of this program as kind of a film strip model. So you can click and play here, you can go here and listen to what was just prior, go here and listen to what was just subsequent, as well as search within the program and conduct your own research there. This tool also allows you to do faceted search within that, that collection of the debate against a variety of things, including the stations, the shows, the transcript. You can do keyword search for keywords in the transcript, as well as just do faceted search for speaker. Here is all the representations of candidates by all networks for the whole speech. So I'm going to here is something I just created last night because I thought it was kind of cool. Here is the fraction devoted to sound bites taken from the debate in the subsequent week of US television by the major networks. And you're able to look here and see the fraction within each network that they devoted to each of the candidates. That is, not the candidates, but the actual sound bites from each of those candidates. I just did this last night. The only things that popped out at me right away is you look in the center. This is Fox News. And you might kind of whimsically note, well, maybe there is a little bit of case for, at least in this instance, of them being balanced. I don't know about fair, but certainly balanced. And then you look here at Al Jazeera America and go, whoa, what is this that is so smaller in other ones? Well, that's Rand Paul. And when you dive into the debate, you'll note that the Rand Paul portions that most people carried and that Al Jazeera America did in particular were of surveillance and the like. Kalev has also created a really cool tool that's available to track name mentions throughout this year of every candidate. Throughout television news, it's updated. Like all our material, we wait 24 hours. We embargo it before making it available in our research library. Kalev just published this morning a blog post on the archive blog, that's blog.archive.org, describing a number of these features that I just clicked through so quickly. So thank you very much for your attention. We think that we're at the threshold of really being able to make breakthroughs in allowing and permitting scaled digital access by machines and by people for the benefit of all. We hope you'll join us, because as I said, at its heart, we're an invitation to collaborate. So thank you very much.